This meeting of SPERDVAC will come to order.
Hello folks, Zach from SPERDVAC here with another adventure into classic radio's history for your earbuds. My apologies that there was quite a bit of silence between episodes. I can promise you though that progress was being made on upcoming SPERDVAC projects, specifically ones dedicated to our preservation efforts that will be available for members and non-members alike to get a look at. I will keep you informed of all those fun things as they come down the pipeline, so don't miss out. Tune into this little station here to hear it first or last. It depends on how fast our guru Sean gets stuff out there. Now, I also wanted to take a minute to update you on when these podcast ventures will be released regularly, as there's now a place to set a firm time. Starting with this episode, Behind the Dial will be released every other week. That will be about 2 episodes a month every other Friday. You know what I mean. And I promise you, though, despite the fact that there's only 2 episodes a month roughly instead of 4, that each of these outings will be filled with great classic radio tales to be heard from those who lived and experienced it. That brings me smoothly into the subject of tonight's outing for the SPERDVAC Vaults. I decided to dive a little bit deeper into our meetings and picked one out from 1982, not just because of the star power involved, but also because it was made apparent to me that it was the closest one can get to being a fly on the wall of radio in the 40s and the 50s, in the mundane, the day-to-day stuff. But by star power, I don't mean the headliners. I'm not talking about the Jack Webbs or the Hans Conried. I'm talking about the supporting players, the Greggs, the Webbers, the Bartells, the Bears, the Bears. No, I speak of the supporting players, the diligent actors and creatives who were able to make their living and live out their craft behind the microphone. They all came from different backgrounds, but all landed in spots with some of the most renowned radio series in history. Shows like Dr. Christian, Gunsmoke, Frontier Gentleman, and Dragnet wouldn't be what they are to our memory and to our delight without these reliable talents. And to the benefit of audiences in 1982 and today, they remembered a lot. They remembered stories specifically that give people like Hans Conried and Jack Webb a little bit more humanity rather than the godlike status that fans of classic radio will put them on, that little pedestal there. Like, it just gives them a little bit more grounding. So I want to take you on the journey that I experienced listening back to this, to hear the stories that all of these wonderful supporting players have to give as we go back into August 14th of 1982 to hear what they had to say about that period in history. I will stay up front, though. One of our illustrious guests, Parley Baer, does tell a story that may be heard as rude and crass by today's standards and acceptabilities. And additionally, there is playback of an episode of one of their shows that contains a bit of racial portrayal that would be very inappropriate today. The show and thusly the entire interview are both being presented unedited for posterity of the original recording of the event itself, and also to not remove the content. To do that would be to falsely pretend that these instances didn't happen. And as fans and creatives, we can learn from these moments the same as we would learn the stories that they have to share about their time for working for the classic radio era. Therefore, we can all kind of grow together while still retaining these stories that they have to tell. So with that noted, let's take a trip back to 1982 and hear from the wisdom and experience of Vic Perrin, Virginia Gregg, Peggy Webber, Harry Bartell, John Dehner, and Parley Baer, our lovely supporting players.
Right now I'm going to ask the Vice President of SPERDVAC, Larry Gassman, to stand up here and introduce these people.
This is going to be fun. Do I have to work close to this? Okay. This is going to be interesting. We've been looking at this for quite a few months, and I want to thank John Gassman and Dan Hafley for helping to put this together. And if
Let's hear it for those guys.
okay, why not? The focus of this meeting primarily, although not totally because I'm sure you'd like to hear a little bit about their individual careers, is talking about the shows from the 50s, the 1950s, the CBS shows. And I could just stand up here and rattle off thousands of shows, but really all it would show would be that I did a hell of a lot of research, and that's not really necessary, because I'm sure we'll get to most of those throughout the next 6 to 7 days that we'll be sitting here. So rather than have me do all that, we do have some excerpts from time to time, and possibly we may get to some of them. I don't know. It's kind of free flow, but what I would like to do is just to introduce these people and basically have them talk about some of the things that they were involved in radio and their careers throughout the 30s, 40s, and 50s. I'm not going to do this in any order. I'm just going to do it as it comes to the top of my head. First of all, a lady who, you know, if you turn on any show from CBS, if she's not in it, you have to check to see if it might not have been another network in the 50s. And she was a marvelous character actor then and is still very, very busy. From time to time, I'm sure you hear her work some of the Heartbeat theaters. Please welcome Virginia Gregg. Also, we have another lady who was a tremendous character actor. Will you hush? You want to get up here? No, sit where you are, as a matter of fact. Sit down. Another tremendous character actress, and did many, many different shows, including Dragnet, and just a whole host of shows that I'm sure she'll get to. She also mentioned, and we found a copy of a Dragnet show where she played Jack Webb's mother. That's kind of an interesting role. That was kind of fun to listen to. Please welcome Peggy Webber. Next, another actor who was, John, this is actor now, because there are no more women left. Now be quiet and just sit there. I hope not. Another actor who was tremendously busy in the 1950s, and he also has a guest here with him, and I'd like to have him introduce her. But first, I'd like to have you meet Vic Perrin. Who do you have with you, Vic?
My lovely bride, Rita. Would you stand up?
Next, we have someone who traveled quite a long distance to get here. I was frankly shocked. That's a long, long way to travel. And you remember him for many, many different roles. For those of you who have heard Fort Laramie, you remember him as Lieutenant Seiberts. He did a lot of the Sherlock Holmes programs in the 40s. I remember you also later on, I think, with the Miss Abby, or the Dear Abby program. And he's come all the way from Santa Barbara. He also has some guests. Please welcome Harry Bartell. Harry, would you like to introduce your guests?
Oh, why not?
I was going to point at him. That was next.
Mrs. Bartell and Miss Bartell from New Hampshire.
And also we have someone who has done so much in terms of radio and television in the 50s, and you know him, I think, probably best as Chester from Gunsmoke. Although he did quite a bit, he's still working in some of the Heartbeat theaters and a lot of other things that I'm sure he'll tell you about throughout the course of the afternoon. Please welcome Parley Baer. Since I haven't had a chance to talk to Parley, did you bring anybody with you?
Nobody wants to be seen with me.
And our final member, prospective member, the SPERDVAC member, but also someone who is incredibly busy even now, and maybe we can even get into that in terms of some of the things that he's doing now for television. But you know him best, I'm sure, as Paladin from Have Gun Will Travel, as J.B. Kendall from Frontier Gentlemen, and probably 1,000, maybe to 100,000 other sundry roles in the 40s and 50s. Please welcome the final member of our panel, John Dehner. Now I think Virginia will welcome her microphone back. Here you go. I don't know that I... You don't want it back? You can sit where I'm sitting if you want, and I'll sit up here. Kind of as a prerequisite to some of the other things that we might talk about, we might ask some of you to talk briefly about how you got into radio. And Virginia, as long as I'm giving your mic back, why don't you start off? All right?
Oh.
How did you... don't...
Why don't you start at the other end? Anybody have any questions? You want to know how I got into radio?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
How I got into radio? I was a musician. Can you hear me?
Tell them what instrument.
Close to the mic.
You might work really close to that.
Lethal. Now can you hear me?
Tell them
I
what
was
instrument.
They didn't hear what I said first, so I'm going to start a different way. I was always an actress, I guess, always going to be an actress. But I was also a musician. I played double bass viol. And I wound up in the Pasadena Symphony Orchestra, where I played for 4 years. Then I joined a group called the Singing Strings. We were on staff at CBS for a year. We were on staff at the Mutual Network for a year and a half. And there I started doing commentaries and emceeing and so forth, and I got into little parts, and I decided to give up music, and I sold my bass that night. So I'd never go back to it. And I knew enough people by then that I could go to the stations and say, I'm an actress, and they say, no, you're not, you're a musician. That's a tough transfer from music to acting. But I made it, and from there, loyal people like Jack Webb, and of course I'd done a lot of little theater and so forth, and the Pasadena Playhouse. But Jack Webb, Jack Johnstone, Arch Obler, Norman Corwin, all terribly loyal people. It got me started in television, and from there Bill Conrad got my first part in pictures, which was Body and Soul. And I found that my face was about as versatile as my voice, my then voice. And I was a character actress from the day I started, and I still am. And that delights me. That's exactly what I want to be. I'm pleased with it. That's my story. Am I the MC?
Are we going right to...
Are we going?
Okay.
Harry Bartell.
I started in radio in 1930 in a very weird place called Houston, Texas. And worked with what was then one of the most unique features of radio I've ever come across. The motion picture theaters used to send out 15-minute condensations of the pictures that they were releasing in town. And if you were fortunate enough to work on these shows, you received 2 tickets to the theater. And the tickets were then worth 25 cents a piece. And of course, this was long before AFRA ever hit the southern states. And after I left Texas, where I've been doing a lot of little theater work, I came to California to work at Pasadena Playhouse. The announcer with whom I had started in Houston had a brother who was then at KEHE in Los Angeles. That was the Blue Network station for National Broadcasting Company. He introduced me to a man who had a slave mart called Allied Advertising Agencies. And through them, I started in commercials, did disc jockey work, did staff announcing, and finally declared independence one day and said, from now on, I'm going to do nothing but freelance acting. That was in 1943. And from there on, I was lucky. And my greatest achievement is I survived.
Well, my story started in Texas as well. I was in San Antonio at WOAI in 1938. I was about 12 years old and did a children's series that I wrote from Louisa May Alcott's Under the Lilacs. And from there, went to KVOA in Tucson, Arizona, had my own show for the Light and Power Company there, and came to Los Angeles in 1942, and auditioned and auditioned and auditioned and went to USC at the same time. And finally, Ted Wick gave me my first break on a program on Mutual Radio, and it was a railroad show. Does anyone remember the name?
Yes, Mainline.
Was that it?
Mainline.
I played a 12-year-old girl. That was my first part. It was a leading role. And then was cast in Cavalcade of America opposite Joseph Cotton, and was fired the first day. And went on to do legitimate stage for the next 6 months at the Musart Theater downtown Los Angeles, and won the audition for Ilsa in Casablanca on NBC. And that was the beginning of my career, and from then on, Carlton E. Morse, Bill Spear, Jack Webb, Jerry Devine, so many others were very loyal, and that was the beginning of my career.
Well, I didn't work in Texas, but I was born in Menominee Falls, Wisconsin, population 1,281. And I went to the University of Wisconsin and majored in speech and drama. Came out here in 1939 on vacation, said this is heaven, this is where I want to be, but I had just finished my junior year. I graduated on the 15th of June in 1940, and on the 16th of June at 5:30 in the morning, I was on the train, the city of Los Angeles, headed for Hollywood, and I got here with $1.65. And I finally got a job. I had 2 letters, both addressed to whom it may concern, telling what a great talent I was. And I got a job delivering flowers at $15 a week, which kept me from starving. And my to whom it may concern letter addressed to NBC got me an interview with the production manager, Walter Bunker, who said, "Why don't you take a job on our parking lot here?" So I did. I quit my $15 a week job and took a $12 a week job on the parking lot, but I was pretty close to the building. And Mr. Bunker said, the next time we have an opening and we have an audition, I'll see that you're included. And about 3 months later, they had one such, and I took the audition and I won it. The very day I was to be fitted with my page's uniform, I never got to wear it. And I started as a junior announcer and stayed with the network until it split, then went with the Blue, which became ABC. And they had a monthly magazine put out by NBC that said, "You are NBC, NBC is you." And every time I got it, I said, "No, I'm not, no, I'm not, no, I'm not." And so I decided to go freelance and become an actor, and fortunately I had 3 wonderful years with Charles Lawton's group, which broke the announcer pattern that I had developed. And Jack Webb and Carlton E. Morse and Norm Macdonald and all these wonderful people kept me eating very well for many years. And I'm an actor, and I love it, and I never got tired of it. Thank you.
Those guys think they started in weird places. I started in Salt Lake City, Utah. That gets straight A in weird even today. I did a few shows there when I came down. Now, unlike Vic, I had no letters to whom it may concern telling what a great talent I was. I have the feeling even to this day that letters had gone out ahead saying don't hire him. I know that in the years after Gunsmoke, when Bill Conrad was directing, and bless his heart, I worked for him a good deal of the time, but his greeting to me when I came on the set is, "What the hell is the matter with casting?" I said, "Do not hire Parley Baer. We'll be here for the rest of the summer." The first network show I did down here was on the Whistler with Mr. George Allen. The first radio show I did was on KFI on a thing called Conquest. Stan Farrar was the star. Peggy, I think you were on there.
Yes.
Alice Frost, and it had to do with the way the inadequate water system here operated. And if fountains were at a certain level, used water of all kinds backed up in it. It took me 11 years to take a drink out of a fountain after that. I got humpback carrying artesian well water around with me in 5-gallon bottles. I've been lucky through the years. Wonderful run on Gunsmoke. Every one of us here at the table played it many, many times. 10 wonderful years, shows like those Websters, The Count of Monte Cristo, and Lux Radio Theater, which was the highlight for all of us. There's so many, as you begin to talk about these old times, you wonder where the years went, but thank God for them. I can only say this, like Vic, I hope I'm an actor. Sometimes directors disagree, but to hell with them. And if I had just, my poor father died the day before his 95th birthday, and he went to his grave wondering when I was going to get a job. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I've wondered that many times. Thank you.
I have nothing. Can you hear me?
Story of my life, John. Sit over there.
Am I old? Yes. I began the whole miserable thing in 1937 in New York. I lived through the Depression miraculously, came to California, decided to give up acting completely, and I went to work at Disney as an animator. And I worked on Bambi, I worked on Fantasia, and then I was drafted. And when I got out of the Army, I decided I was not going to go back to work at Disney, but rather go into radio. And I became an announcer. Miraculously, I had never seen a microphone in my life. But I auditioned at KFAC, and they took me because there was panic in the streets at the time. They needed manpower. Anybody who could open their mouth and talk was hired instantly, but boy, I was awful. And I was fired. I learned enough to audition for a job at KMPC, and eventually I became a news editor of KMPC after being an announcer for a couple of years. Then I was fired from that job, and I went to KFWB, and I became an announcer, and I became news editor of KFWB. And it was at that time, I was fired from that job too. But the nice part about the whole thing is that the person who had more influence and did more for me in getting me started as an actor in radio is sitting right at the far end of that table. Virginia?
Me?
Did you know that?
I was going to put on my glasses to see who it was.
No, it's,
You'll
it's
have to tell
absolutely
us how
true.
that
We had known each other when we were at, when I was at KMPC, doing a real wild show called The Hermit's Cave. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but I was the hermit. Certainly, I was the hermit. Ghost stories, weird stories, and murders too. The hermit knows of them all.
He also played the organ, doubled 5 or 6 parts, swept up the studio,
Absolutely.
and did sound effects, didn't we?
We sure did. Virginia gave my name to a man who became a very, very close friend of mine and of all of ours. As a matter of fact, Norm MacDonald. And Norman was doing, it could have been Escape or Romance or whatever. And she said, there's a fellow here you ought to try out. And try out, I did, and I got a job, and Norm used me from then on. So, Virginia, I want to thank you publicly for, God, what you haven't done to me.
Yeah. This is all news.
That's enough.
Could I say something if I'm not out of order here? John.
You probably are, Harry.
John and Parley mentioned a name just now, Norman MacDonald. The 6 of us are here have worked together on hundreds, perhaps thousands of occasions, and there was always something, to me anyway, that was rather special about CBS and CBS Productions. And I think a large part of that, certainly in my estimation, was due to a man named Norman MacDonald.
You're here.
He started as a page. He started as a page boy, worked up to an assistant director, a clock watcher, later became a director on his own, and I remember working on his first show, which was a rebroadcast of an old local show called Romance of the Ranchos, and it was supposed to go on the Western Network. Actually, I think it dead-ended in the basement. Nobody ever heard it. But at any rate, Norm started that way. He was a man of infinite good taste, of infinite good humor, and was able to, somehow or other, bring a cast together.
Harry, he loved actors, which you can't say.
I think that's
it.
correct.
Yeah.
He did. He loved actors, and working together, as most of us did, almost every week on Gunsmoke in particular, he developed a sort of a rapport which you find only in repertory companies. And I'd like to vote him thanks for what he did for me.
Oh, my.
Indeed.
I second that.
Jack
All in
Webb
favor.
formed that kind
Yeah.
of company.
Yes,
Jack
Jack
Webb
Webb also
for
did
me.
the same
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, Jack too, yeah.
Mr. Bartell,
Yes.
tell us about Petri Wine and Sherlock Holmes.
The most interesting thing to me about Petri Wine and Sherlock Holmes was the personalities of the two stars. Basil Rathbone gave the appearance of being a cold, dour man, and Nigel, or Willie Bruce, was a jovial, kindly sort of fellow, at least as far as airwaves and motion pictures were concerned, but their personalities were exactly opposite. And it was always much easier to get along with Basil than it was with Willie Bruce. I got that job, by the way, in a very strange manner. The producer was Edna Best, the ex-wife of Herbert Marshall, and she was holding auditions at CBS. What she was doing over there, I don't know. But I walked into the foyer one day, and the place was crawling with announcers, which I was not. And I said, what's going on here? And she said, they're holding auditions. The secretary kept popping in and out and saying, you're next, you're next. And I said, if she has a moment, may I go in and say hello to Edna? Just that. And she said, yes. And I went in, I said, I just wanted to say hello. I hadn't seen you in a long time. And she said, aren't you going to read? I said, no, what for? I'm not auditioning. She said, pick up a script. And that's how I got the job as an announcer on...
Influence, right? Right.
Yeah.
Your allegiance to the show were great, I have to know.
I don't remember what it was.
Well, you always talk about petroleum wine, and it would be cold, and you'd be building a fire, you'd be sitting in the fire. One time you were outside smelling the flower.
That's very interesting.
And I take back what I said before. That was the very first show I did, but I didn't have a large part on it.
don't have
Sherlock.
any wine left, do you?
I did a lot of the Sherlock
No.
Holmes after that.
Really?
Yeah.
What was the first adventure? Do you remember the first adventure you were in?
Out of 8,000 shows, I really don't.
I do remember one other thing about that show. Paul Frees was playing a psychiatrist, and he came across one of the most impossible lines ever written. Dr. Eustace was Miss somebody's allergist.
Oh, gee.
And at that time, we were doing both East and West broadcasts, repeats. And on the show to the East, he hit that line and just kicked it a mile. He couldn't get off of it, though, because he kept, Miss Eustace, and I folded up, which didn't help him, of course. And when he looked up, there was nobody in the booth either. They were all on the floor. On the repeat broadcast, he backed up to the line, took a deep breath, said it perfectly, and kicked the next line right out of the window.
I got to get even with John Dehner. We were doing a romance, the two of us, just two of us.
That's the name of a show.
Oh, I don't know. Anyway, the very last speech of the show was mine, and it was long. It was about a half a page. And I believe that the very last sentence was, yes, Hans, or whoever, I really do love you. Well, usually you look up and you act to the actors, but this was a long, involved thing. So I read it down to that last line, which I had memorized, and I looked up, and John Dehner is standing across the microphone from me with his eyes crossed. I'm sure everybody listening thought that was a dramatic pause I was taking. I'll get even with him someday. I haven't managed to do it yet.
Oh, I got to tell one too, and this was on romance, and we were going into like the second act, and they wanted to establish the fact that we were on a golf course, so we devised an ad lib, which was, isn't that John and Roma Dehner teeing off on the 10th? Well, so we giggled on the rehearsal and decided we'd better change the line. So for the show, we said, isn't that John and Roma Dehner holding out on the 9th? That wasn't any better.
Holding out, that was not. Oh, God. The show practically stopped dead in its tracks.
Oh, dear.
I have one more if you want to hear it. Okay. This one's with Parley Baer. We were doing, I believe it was a Dr. Christian, and that was an audience show. And I was extremely pregnant. I was pregnant 3 times, and each time I was extremely pregnant. And I was doing these shows like this. And at that time, the skirts you wore had a little string that tied from here, and the stomach was cut out. If one of those strings broke, your skirt fell. There was no way you could hang on to it. So I was sitting on stage, the cast is on stage while they announce everybody, and I felt this thing go bing. And I picked up my top, and I got this side, and I went, oh, it broke. You know, it didn't come untied, it broke. And I can't stand up to do my part. So I say to Rosemary, do you have a safety pin? And she says, no. I go on down the line, and nobody has a safety pin. And here's my part coming up. We're on the air. I say to Parley, come here a minute. And I said, take your hand and hold this, and take the other hand and hold this, and walk up to the microphone with me. So God knows what's going to happen if he lets go one of those strings. So he walks up to the microphone with me, holding here, and the producer and the director and the cast, they have no idea what's going on. So we got through the program with Parley Baer holding my skirt on. Thank you, Parley.
That's probably the most useful I have ever been on any show. Yes, we, all of us were, many, many times. That, gosh, what should I tell you about it? There were, probably one of the worst things that happened there was poor Vic Rodman when he, you know the story better than I do, Virginia. Tell it. I still shake. Tell it.
You remember the name Victor Rodman?
He's been gone a long time.
He was very ill for a long time. At Christmas time we exchanged presents. He was inordinately fond of cheese. And so I sent him some for Christmas, and Virginia, who mothered all of us a lot of the time, said, you shouldn't have done that. His doctor says he may not have cheese. In due time, literature was sent out in the cheese company, and some months later, Victor was looking very glum, and I said, what's the matter? And he said, it's just terrible. I've been blackballed out of the Cheese of the Month club. Tell him about that dress rehearsal after the daylight savings time. You know the story better than I do, Virginia.
Well, is that we were on the air and he thought it was a dress rehearsal?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we were on the air and we'd hear Victor go, but it isn't quite loud enough to really do anything about or wonder. So we hear bang, and his chair scrapes and all these funny noises. What the hell's the matter with him? But it still isn't bad enough. And Victor was not given to pristine words when he just spoke to you. And after the show was over, we all stood up and gathered our things and started out, and he said, where's everybody going? And we said, home. He said, aren't we going to do the show? And we said, we just did the show. And he did his lines. Fortunately, he didn't kick one, or we would have been off the air quickly. But he got through, and that man turned pasty white, and we thought he was going to faint. But is that the story?
That's the one. Do you remember Charlie Jaycox, the engineer down there? There was a young lady who came out here from, we weren't all Sunday school all the time, you know. And this lady came out there. She was bountifully endowed here and there. And particularly did she wear huge horn-rimmed glasses. I got into the rehearsal early, and Charlie Jaycox was sitting there, and I saw this list. She'd been on the show and caused mild consternation from time to time. And I was looking at the names, I didn't remember this name. I said, who is that? And Charlie said, oh, you know her? I said, no, I don't. He said, oh, she was on Red Ryder, and she was on this. I said, I can't place her. She's the girl with the horn-rimmed boobs. I just let it lay there.
Jenny mentioned Dr. Christian just now. The first time I did that show, I almost died. They printed the scripts on a ditto. Oh, God. Yeah. And the script came out purple. And everything was fine until we went on the air when they hit the mics with a purple light. And the script disappeared.
All the words left. It's blank paper.
And they never stopped. They never stopped doing that. The series went on.
There was another color, though. If you tilted it,
you got a different. Neil Reagan was the director on that. Ronald Reagan's brother was our director on Dr. Christian.
Yeah.
Apropos of those kind of accidents on the air, I remember working with Peter Lorre on Mystery in the Air when he threw his script totally up. I think we were doing Crime and Punishment or The Horla, I can't remember, but he was going into an apoplectic fit, and he got so taken away with what he was doing, he just threw the script in the air, and we had an audience and everything, and it all came down around us, and for the rest of the show, he ad-libbed his part. I mean, they never did get it together for him. And there was another time when I was doing a soap opera, Dr. Paul. I don't know if any of you remember Dr. Paul, but I was Mrs. Dr. Paul for about 9 years. And this lady was a vicious, evil woman.
Oh, you were so good at those nasty, detestable females.
This lady had not put enough cement in the sand when they were building the school, the elementary school, and therefore it had collapsed and many children had been killed, etc. And she also was about to have a baby, but she was being sent to prison at the same time, and therefore the child was going to be born in prison, and it went on and on and on like this. And as I recall, we had to do this one show where it was total narrative with her reminiscing over all of the terrible things that she had done and all of the things she was going to undergo having the baby in the prison. And so when this went on the air, it was like I was the only one. I think the announcer and I were the only ones. And all of a sudden, the director came rushing out of the booth. Now the red light was on, we were on the air. This was live to New York. And he knocked the screen over that was around the organ. At that time, you kept the screen around to give privacy to the organist so he could make a few noises of his own. He knocked this over, then he came over and he knocked over my stand, which was there, that had my script on it, and then he came behind me with a red pencil and began crossing out speeches as I read them on the air. Now, I had no one to turn to because I was it, and the light was on, and here he's slashing away like mad. And I went through and finished the whole show just dying because I didn't know where I was going, because every time I took a page off, he'd be cutting it again. And so finally, when we came off the air, they all came out of the booth and roared with laughter and said that the show had been preempted. I think Harry Truman Harry Truman was making a speech or something. I think I almost had a heart attack.
They renamed that show General Hospital and put it on.
You remember when Hallmark Playhouse was on the air, James Hilton was the host, and there was a wonderful director, but he was very explosive and effervescent a good deal of the time, the name of D. Engelbach. And we were doing Old Man Minnick on there with the wonderful Victor Moore starring in that. He had a predilection for losing his place, and he had a strange habit. When he went to turn his pages, he'd kind of get out. Took about 4 or 5 swipes to get his fingers wet, and he'd slap a page over with a pretty good sound effect. And Dee worried as much about the dress rehearsals as he did the show, and he had appointed or deputized several people to stand by Victor to come out with a finger in case he lost his place. But an unwarranted silence came out, and this plaintive little voice said, "Somebody took my page 7." I don't think D. Engelbach knew a well moment from then on.
Speaking of losing your place, this happened to me at KMPC when I was newsman there. I had my news all set for the 15-minute broadcast. I get the signal to go on the air, and I'm on. And it's black with print, and it's a page, and I'm going from page to page, and I'm reading, and suddenly I look down here, and here I see a strange object coming up across the page, right straight across, is a pair of editor's shears. And there's a guy behind me, and he's got this thing, he cuts here's my script, he cuts it right up the middle. Now, how do you get all the lines back together again? And once you do get them back, how do you turn the pages? That's it.
How did you?
I didn't.
Orson Welles used to have a thing about waiting until 5 or 10 minutes before you'd go on the air to make huge cuts in his shows. And he wouldn't just cut like a quarter of a page or something. He'd take like 10 pages and rip them out, and everybody'd be trying to keep track of it. And he was another one. I recall one show where he threw the whole script away just at the opening because he had cut so much that it became very confusing. So he did the dramatic thing of throwing it up in the air, and the rest of us wondered, whether he was ever going to get a script that was totally together.
I saw Norman Corwin come out of a booth one day. I happened to be facing the booth at the time. We were working on two sides of a ribbon mic. And I was on the air, and I watched him out of the corner of my eye coming around in back of me. And he took my script and started looking at page numbers and pulled out a page and dropped it and quietly went back into the booth. And that was the way he made cuts.
Were you in the Mercury Theater?
I did some of them. I really didn't work with Orson until he did the Cresta Blanca series, and then I did Macbeth with him, the film. I did Lady Macduff and did the voices of the witches along with Lorene Tuttle and Brainerd Duffield. I think there was Jeanette Nolan. We did the witch's voice. Of course, she played Lady Macbeth. Jeanette did.
John, do you remember where we met?
It was a KMPC.
No, it was
Wasn't it?
KFWB when you were on the news staff, and you used to work Sunday mornings when I was doing the disc jockey show.
Oh my gosh. Yes, it was. What were you doing there?
Cotton Top. The
Cotton
disc jockey
Top.
thing. For the Smiling Irishman. It was a very big deal. 3 hours of records.
God,
I
yes, it
was, I was on the
KFWB.
air one day, and Bob Green was doing the Sunday shift as the news announcer, and he came in to the announce booth with a piece of paper off of a teletype. He says, "Hey, look at this." It was one line, and it was date-lined Oahu, and it said, "Pearl Harbor reported bombed by enemy planes." That was the 7th of December, 1941. And for an hour and a half after that, we didn't know what to do. We had no lead that this sort of thing could possibly have happened. And for an hour and a half after that, I had to play records and try to keep track of what was going on with the news. It was a fearsome occasion.
All right. The sequel to that is VJ Day. I was at KFWB when the surrender came, and who was on the air with us but Orson Welles, Rita Hayworth, Marlene Dietrich, and remember John B. Hughes?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yes.
He was on. So you opened the war, and I closed it.
Fair enough.
About what?
Paladin.
Paladin? Yeah, he was a pretty good guy. That show really came about because of the Dick Boone television show. They decided they wanted to capitalize on the success of that show, of the TV show, so they decided to use the same scripts that had been used in the Boone show for the radio show, but unfortunately they did not work out. So we scrapped the whole thing, and everything that was done on Have Gun Will Travel on the radio was original. And as far as the character is concerned, what is there to say? But he was a grand and glorious, heroic, magnificent, wonderful, masculine, strong-hearted,
And magnificently played.
magnetic, yes, character. That's all. That's many years ago. That was the second to the last show on the air. The last was Johnny Dollar.
Did I do Hey Boys, Missy Wong on that? Yeah. God, Connie, all I can do is old women now. I don't know. But I get cards and letters from Ben Wright, always addressed to Missy Wong. Signed Adolph, Hey Boy.
Virginia, were you with us when we did The Doctor, which was the radio version of The Medic? The one that Richard Boone
Jim
did?
Moser wrote that, too.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was
that
a
Jack
Jack
Webb?
Webb production.
sure it
and,
Yeah, Jim Moser
was
wrote
Jack
it.
Webb.
That was Richard Boone's first
yes.
recording for anything that he later did.
Yeah,
I guess in the Medic they called
Yeah,
it later, but it was
right.
called The Doctor.
Well, you know, on one of the very first Dragnet TV shows, Dick Boone played a captain, I think.
That's right.
And in the feature, the first feature that we did, where I did the district attorney and Boone was the captain, he spent his last $300 buying $250 suits so that he would look good in the film. And he wasn't very affluent at the time, so.
What's so different about that?
Yeah.
May I present a question to the whole group, please, if I may? I suppose we all can't thank you enough for all the wonderful shows you have given us in the 1950s, especially with the advent of television and how hard and how wonderful you people worked. But there is one program I'd like to get all your thoughts on because it was beautifully created, beautifully written, beautifully scored. You took your time with the script. It was a very, very beautifully adult in format. Your thoughts, please, on the series Frontier Gentlemen. I loved it, and it's now being re-examined by many collectors and fans as one of the truly great Western series ever on radio. Your thoughts, please.
I didn't
Who
work it.
directed it?
Oh,
Do you remember?
Tony Ellis. Tony Ellis directed it, wrote it and directed it.
Well, Tony Ellis wrote it, directed it, produced it, everything, and I think it was one of his finest efforts. I know this, that Tony liked that show better than any show he had ever done in his life, and I think it showed. And I was very close to Tony up until the day he died. And he would very often refer to that show as with great affection. There's nothing much I can say about it except for the fact that I enjoyed doing it. It was one of those shows that I think was so well written that it played itself. And you can't say that about too many shows, I'll tell you that. I just finished one this year that was the toughest I've ever done in my life, simply because it was just off kilter. Anyway, that's beside the point. Frontier Gentlemen was I thought was for me, a very comfortable and enjoyable show.
How long did that live, that show?
About, I guess, wasn't it?
That's weird.
Yeah.
I don't think I was here
Yeah.
during that.
Have guns start the week after it went off. Yeah, you were,
Was I?
yeah, because as soon as Steve finds it, we have a little excerpt.
Here you go.
Did you find it? Oh, okay.
The gentleman back here has a question.
I did?
I don't even remember. Must have been away.
John?
Pardon?
You mentioned Anthony Ellis.
Yes.
Could you give us some of his background or biography?
Well, the only background I can give about him is what I know about him from my personal experience, having met him, but only in Hollywood. I didn't know very much about his background before he arrived here. No, I didn't know.
He was English, you know.
He's English, yes, and his mother was Effie Kalish. She was a pianist. As a matter of fact, she taught me piano, and She came over here with the other English pianist by the name of Solomon, and brought her family and her husband, who was also her agent. And Tony was very musically inclined, and music played a very important part in his, not only the production, but in the writing, in his mind. He wrote musically in many respects. Tempo meant a great deal. Dynamics meant a great deal to Tony. So he was a very, very broad, very warm, very kind, lovely, lovely man.
A very sensitive man.
Extremely sensitive, yes, absolutely. I still think of Tony very often, and I still, boy, I do. I miss that man. And he was a great fisherman. See, this is my hobby, is fishing. And the two of us used to go up, fish trout. He moved up Big Bear, and I'd go up and visit him, and we'd fish by the hour, day after day after day after day. Wonderful man.
That show took on a personality of its own, very much like Gunsmoke did. A lot of the same actors worked them, and this was a sort of a CBS group more than anything else.
At that time, about that time, I think they figured there were approximately 1,500 members of AFRA, and about 400 of us did all the work.
I think that would be a maximum at 400.
300 more.
That I know in my own case, I was doing at one time and another as high as 5 shows a day, having somebody rehearse for me at NBC. See, they were all very close, the studios. Do 2 or 3 one-man families. And Betty, I did Betty. Huh?
It's like sitting in front of the radio when I was a kid.
What else did I do? What do you mean, what else did I do?
Some of
Another
us were
series,
kids
you mean?
then, too. Not really.
What else did I do? Then I did practically all of the Dragnet shows. Richard Diamond, let George do it. What else? Dragnet. What else? Gunsmoke?
Yeah, Parley was saying Hawk Larrabee.
Huh?
Hawk Larrabee.
Hawk Larrabee, that was Elliot Lewis's show.
Yes.
You did in Virginia.
He produced it.
Yes.
Elliot Lewis and Barton
I
Yarborough.
know.
Hash Knife Hartley, Red Rider.
Oh, Hash Knife Hartley,
Yeah.
I'd forgotten that one.
Working
Red
radio with Jack Webb was an interesting experience.
Yeah.
You sat there during rehearsal time, and everybody caught up on what everybody else was doing, and then you got up and recorded the show. Cold.
That was toward the end.
That was- yeah,
First
not
you
at the
used to get a
beginning.
run through, and then at the end, you didn't even read it. He'd hand you the script and say, you're doing Aunt Georgia, and you're doing Uncle Harry, and you're Ben, and so forth. Okay, let's cut.
He wanted that fresh reaction.
He got it.
He got it.
You didn't.
And if you were, and I'd say, well, how
That
old is she?
seeing
what
it for the first
nationality?
time.
Find out
Is
as
she
you go.
nice or is she bad? He'd say, well, she's 50, and yeah, you like her. Try something. So you do, and if he doesn't stop you after about 4 or 5 sentences, you know you've
You're
hit
close.
a character, and hope you can remember how you started, because you don't know what's coming up.
I had a
That's the way it
conflict
was
one
done.
time. I was working at CBS, and I had a job on Dragnet as fast as I could get over there. And as I walked into the studio, Jack says, all right, let's go. And I
true.
walked up, he handed me a script. I walked up to the microphone, and I was playing an informer, and there was a scene in a park. We were sitting on a bench talking. Jack says, I got a great idea. I think we'll eat peanuts during this thing. It'll lend a nice touch. And he hands me a flock of peanuts, and I've got a script in one hand, absolutely cold. I haven't even seen the title on the thing yet. So we better put the script up on a music stand, which we did. And I sat there eating peanuts, trying to figure out what I was going to say and who I was going to say it as. That was working with Jack Webb. It was very loose.
Oh, but those early days when
Marvelous.
the show was sustaining and when Bill Russo was directing, and we all knew that Bill's days were numbered because Jack really knew exactly how he wanted it done, and having another director there was superfluous. And he developed a technique which was very innovative at the time, where we would hear actually the sirens in the street outside on Sunset Boulevard going by, because he turned the pots up so open that you could pick up all the background noises, and he wanted that sound for the realism instead of the talking into the paper as all the rest of the shows sounded at that time. I think that he really did his most creative work in those early days.
And he had Jim Mosier. too.
Yeah, the greatest writer of radio, Jim Moser.
Jim
James
Moser,
Moser.
who wrote it, right?
You know, lineup was one that, after a while, it got to where we wing it, and the wonderful Howard McNear and I were on. Everybody got, the union gave that show permission for other people to, for everyone rather, to double because of the lineup that started the thing off. We went on one night without reading it, and as I was on first with my double, I came back. Howard McNear said, "Ooh, you used the voice."
Speaking of which, Harry and I frequently were twin villains on a show. And we never knew whether Harry was going to be the high-voiced villain or the low-voiced. Whoever got the first line had his choice.
The horror story of all horror stories, for me, it was George Allen, wasn't it, who produced The Whistler? Yes. Okay. Didn't we have two shows, one for the West Coast and then another TC, on separate days?
No.
Same
A
day.
few hours later, whatever, just the difference in time.
I was into horses at the time. I did the show, I had the lead, did the show, went to the stable, saddled up, climbed aboard the horse, rode across the bridge, through the boondocks, up into Griffith Park, clippity-clop, hours later. Suddenly, the blood left my face. I said, "Holy God, I'm on the air." I'm sitting on a horse in the middle of Griffith Park. Now, what do you do? Nothing. You just clippity-clop back. Rush to the studio. Tell us the truth, you know, except that you say the horse got a pebble in between his hoof and his shoe. And George says, "It's all right, John, fine. We've covered you. Everything's okay." And I said, "Oh, God, thank you. It happened a second time. The same damn thing. Maybe 6 months later, on a horse, blank. My God, I'm on the air. Can you imagine?
Why did you get away with it that time?
Yes.
And he kept hiring me. I gave him some excuse, and he said, "It's all right, John. We're covered. Everything was fine." And I kept working for George.
That used to happen on Lux quite a lot,
Yeah,
where
'cause
they
of the
didn't come
days,
back.
the
But
many
they-
days.
Peggy Webber went on for him. Virginia.
I saw Pat McGeehan in the back when we first came
He's
in.
still there.
And we used to do the Hour of St. Francis for about 20 years. I think Vic Perrin was on most of those,
Yeah,
and I think
right.
Harry and Virginia. I suppose all of us were. And I think that Father Hugh Noonan, who finally wound up directing, I guess, only the TV, it passed away a few years ago. Pat, is that right? Can you tell us anything about that? No.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think those shows were underrated. I think some of them were really excellent. I don't know if they're still around.
Would you like to pause for just a moment and listen to an excerpt of one of the shows that several of you were
Would we?
This is the Frontier Gentleman, one we talked about earlier, and in this is the late Joe Kearns. And you, Virginia, yes, Virginia, you did do Frontier Gentleman. And John Dehner. No, somebody was covering for it. Oh, that's right. And of course, John, you did it as well. And John Dehner, as J.B. Kendall, has gone to find out more about the West, and he's found an old prospector by the name of Nebraska Jack. And they're in the cabin now, and Nebraska is trying to convince Kendall to stay overnight. I think that's all the setup we need. So, Steve, if you're ready.
Kendall, I want you to meet Rosie. This here's J.B. Kendall, Rosie.
This is Nebraska.
Say, now, I plumb forgot Rosie. How's Piney doing, huh? She calved yet?
I told you before, Nebraska, no talk like that. Piney have baby.
Oh, yeah. Well, she have baby yet?
No, soon. Maybe tonight.
Where's Nellie?
She downriver looking to your trap line.
Oh, yeah, that's right. What about Mary?
Nebraska, you getting old in the head. You disremember everything. You send Mary and Mandy to fetch in sheep.
That's unlikely forgot.
Nebraska.
Huh?
Let me smell breath.
What?
Whiskey! Where you hiding?
No, Rosie. No, Rosie.
I'm fine. This Kendall, he bring it?
Well,
No whiskey. How many times I tell you, no whiskey. He drink one these days, he cash in his chips. No whiskey, Nebraska. You hear?
Yes, ma'am.
This Kendall, he stay for grub.
No, thank you very much. I'll have to be going.
Oh, now, you don't have to do that. Why, Rosie here, she fixes the best chuck you ever said it to.
No, really, the coach.
You got your baggage up there at the stage station?
Yes, and...
Oh, shucks, I'll get one of the boys to bring it down for you. You take the next coach out tomorrow. Sure, you stay overnight. Oh, wait, we got plenty of room.
Well, it's very kind of you.
Did you hear that, Rosie? Don't he talk just fine, real educated?
Kendall go to station himself fetch baggage. You stay here, Nebraska.
You can't ask a guest to do that, Rosie. It ain't hospitable.
There's no trouble. I don't mind in the least.
What do you figure he's going to say about us in his newspaper? We make him go fetch baggage his own self.
Don't matter what he say. I know read any house.
Now you hold on, woman. I got patience, but I tell you, it's thinning fast. I'm the head man in this here house, and I'm telling you, I'm a-going with Kendall to fetch his baggage.
You go to station, get drunk.
Who says
When you come back, you'll be sorry.
Who says I'm going to get drunk?
Tonight, wife Piney having baby.
All right. Me and Kendall will be back before dark.
You remember what I tell you, Nebraska. This is the last time. You drink whiskey. You no have womans. You no have kids. You no have nothing.
I believe.
I never would have recognized that voice, because we got pretty good at recognizing voices. And I listened to the closing credits, and it said Virginia Gregg, and I said, what?
Yeah, I did
Never would have
too.
figured that out.
I said, what? I don't remember doing that.
Virginia?
No?
Virginia, tell about the
You have to
time
talk
you and
louder. I
Howard...
don't have my glasses on.
Well, put them on.
Oh.
Tell about the time you and Howard were on, the prayer show, what is it, the Family Who...
Oh, Family Theater.
Family Theater. And he was so funny, and he complimented you playing it so straight. I'm
I
killing
don't remember that. Parley, you remember that better than I do. You tell that.
Well, Howard McNear hated anything that was not a character part. He never played a straight part in his life, but he thought he did. But he was just, on this particular show, he outdid himself, and he was about 1.5 feet off the ground the whole thing, and the orchestra just collapsed. They didn't even let him listen to the dress. And at its conclusion, Howard, the audience just rolled in the aisles, and the whole cast was just delighted, and Howard was nervous. He had just, as I say, outdone himself. And Virginia went up, put her arms around him, said, "Oh, Rabbit, you were so wonderful. You were so funny." He said, "Oh, thank you, but you, oh my God, you were so straight."
Oh, isn't that marvelous?
Oh, I have to tell a Howard story, too. This is your story, really. Howard liked to nip a little bit, didn't he? And we used to do two Gunsmoke shows. And after we finished the first one, we would break for lunch, and we'd all go over to Nicodell. But before we broke for lunch, Howard would take the second script and thumb all the way through it to see how many lines he had in the next show. If he only had a short scene, he could have 3 martinis. If he had a load to carry, he'd limit it to 1. But that determined how much he was going to have at lunch.
We used to have to ad-lib in the lineup. We were in the audience and we'd ad-lib for the lineup. Correct me if I'm not exactly right on this. You remember what he said about his son? Tell him that.
About
while
what?
it was-
What?
About, we were
yes, when
ad-libbing.
oh yeah, we had to ad-lib in the background. He ad-libbed to me. It nearly caused me to miss a cue where he said, "I'm so upset and so nervous." And I said, "Why is it? It's my boy. It's his first time on the stage, you know." All this while we were out there. We came back from one of those days when he didn't have too much to do in the second show, and he had 3 Bloody Marys, and he said, I think I should have some food on my stomach, don't you?" And I said, "I think it'd be a good idea." So we ordered a pot of tea and some cinnamon toast, and as we were walking back to the studio, he said, "Have you got a Jelly-Sill?" And I said, "Yeah, why?" "My stomach's burning." He said, "I don't know what possessed me to order cinnamon toast."
He was wonderful.
My favorite ad-lib came out of Jeanette Nolan, who was a lady of rare talent, by the way.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
We were doing a show called Crime Classics. Elliot Lewis was directing, and it had something to do with the French Revolution. And at one point, a mob was supposed to be yelling, "Free him, free him, free him." And right behind my ear, I hear Jeanette's old lady voice saying, "Hang the bastard!"
You know, when we did the 2 Gunsmokes, and then on Sunday, what was it, Johnny Dollar's at the last one? He used to do 5 on the Sunday when it was
5
the strip show.
15-minute episodes.
Yeah, we did them
right,
all.
yeah.
And I used to pick Howard up. He lived between my house and the studio, and he would come out, and he until he was ill, he really wasn't. But he always prepared for it. And he came kind of slithering out of the car, and he said, "Oh, thank you for picking me up." "You're welcome. Get in, let's go." He said, "Are you doing Johnny Dollar tomorrow?" I said, "Yes." "Will you pick me up?" "Yes." He said, "I called Norman." He said, "I've got a heavy part in both of these shows tomorrow. And I'm in all 5 of those tomorrow. My God, I don't know how I'm going to stand it, and I'm so grateful for the work."
This young man has been holding his hand up and he wants to ask a question.
Oh, my goodness.
Ginny's classic. Give your classic, Ginny.
My classic is, I was working with Jim Burton, and I was a nurse, and I was relatively new as an actress in this business. And I said, "Doctor, here's your hypodemic nurdle." That isn't the worst part. You wish the floor would open up right then. But they give you that sudden look, like, did I hear what I think I heard look? And then they go on, and it suddenly hits, and they go about a sentence and say, "There, was good. And they're trying to keep from laughing. And then suddenly they control themselves and they do the next, and then it hits them again. So you got this build-up of laughter, and you could die. You could just die. Now, there's a follow-up on that. I have told that story so many times. There was a show, what was the venereal disease show? VD.
Yours or
Joys
mine?
of VD, as I remember.
Well, whatever it was, I've forgotten the name of it. Anyway, the writer had heard me tell this story, and they wrote a nurse's part for me, which was the lead in the show, about a hypodermic needle. Do you think I could say it? I wrote it in phonetically every time. Hypodermic needle. And then in rehearsal, even then, I said, here's your hypodermic. Because I've told it so much, I don't know which way it's right now. But I did get through the show, and I promptly thumbed my nose at that man and walked out.
You know, there was a wonderful actor named Bill Boucher. He had a voice that just shook your ankle bones whenever he uttered. When he was supposed to whisper, you had to back off because it'd jar you pretty good. And we were, a bunch of us, chasing Red Ryder to do him a bit of no good. And Bill was playing the sheriff. And as he led us up to the microphone, we had him pretty well surrounded, as I recall. And he, in a stentorian roar that passed for a whisper, he said, "Watch him, men. He's tricky. Keep your finger on the trigger." And of course, we fled from the microphone, and he had more, but he kept looking around. Who was the director? Paul
Franklin.
Paul Franklin. But he disappeared behind the booth, and Bill was mouthing to all, "What did I say?"
That was the same one where he said, "I'll meet you at Red Crack Keek." No, I mean Keek. Wasn't that?
Ed Mack's famous one
Ed
on
Mack,
there was,
right.
"There he goes, just put him in the sail gel." I mean the sail gel. The sail gel. 3 times.
A lot of classes.
I think everybody at one time or another bounced a line around, but one of the best ones that I know of was done by Bill Conrad on Hollywood Playhouse or something like a Sunday afternoon show. The whole plot of a half-hour show depended on the last line, and he didn't say it. No, not at all. And then all of a sudden, after the pause, music crashes in, and letters came from all over the country. How did the show end? The worst part about it is he didn't believe it. And until he heard the playback of the tape, he would have sworn that he had said that line.
Of course, the horrible thing in the early days, we used to do the shows on acetate records, and if someone blew a line towards the end of the show, we had to go back and do the whole blasted thing over again. So that became a very costly matter, and if you did that more than once, you weren't hired ever again for
Well, you
anything.
do, like commercials or lead-ins, and you do 17 of them, and you'd get through them. It's 11:30 at night. You'd blow 17, and you'd go
Glass.
right back to 1.
Glass acetate.
Oh, that was murder.
Glass and acetate.
That wasn't quite as bad as cutting on wax, though. Because when cutting on wax, they had to go back and scrape them.
Well, I'm too young for that.
Oh, come
Kind of
on.
nice that those days are over, ain't it?
Mary Jean Higby talks a lot about that in her book, To Know Tomorrow, about all the problems that they had and the various mistakes that took place 2 seconds before the end of a program.
That's right.
Yeah.
We had a cut on a 15-minute ET once run 15 seconds long. That was the first take. Took 15 takes to get it back because somebody started to blow, and then it's very contagious. With a large cast, you can use up a lot of recording material.
And we wish those days were here again. They were wonderful days. And radio people are the best people in the world.
Hear, hear.
They are. They're the warmest, the friendliest, the kindest, the most loyal. They really are.
I like
I've
Mercy
been in every
McCambridge's
meeting.
Patting
line.
ourselves on the
What's
back.
that?
Wouldn't it be wonderful if television was just going out and radio was just coming in?
You know, to give credence to what Virginia just said, you remember what, John, we were doing at the new Brett Maverick a couple of years ago, on TV, and Young Maverick, and there was an interminable poker game, about 8 or 9 of us in, and 3 or 4 kibitzers, and it took about 3 days to shoot it, remember?
Sure do.
And poor John had hoisted himself on his own petard. You must have gone through about a gross bubble gum. He was a tobacco cured. He fought that bubble gum for 3 days. But High Everback directed it. Howard Duff was in it. John Dehner, John McIntyre, Royal Dano, I think. And I, one day after about the 3rd day of working on this poker game, the 4:30 blahs had set in. We were in the dim light at back of a set, all sort of in a mild coma. And John McIntyre came and slumped down into a chair, and in his tremendous voice he said, "Oh God, there are so few of the best of us left."
Well, we were talking about this at lunch, about how it really was a family, and more than that, the people who were involved were really family people. They had their roots down, and they had their families, and it was a group that were not tacky or tawdry. They were really stable citizens, I think.
You mean you didn't smoke pot?
We didn't know about it, or we would have.
That's true.
When you remember Hans Conried, for instance, who to me was sort of the epitome of the colorful days of radio, who just passed away a few months back, and Ben Wright with his crossword puzzles always at the table.
He'd work the New York Times crossword puzzle with a pen.
Right. And Hans would not even mark his scripts because it was a point of honor with him that he could get up and do his part without having it marked. And would wear different colored socks and things to just kind of make things more cheerful. Well, I think those of us who really worked a great deal with Jack did love him and still love him. And he is a taskmaster. He knows exactly what he wants, and he doesn't want to waste any time. He knows the most efficient way to achieve what he wants. The budget is always foremost in his mind, but I think that when he did radio, it was a much more creative time in Jack's life, and I think his Pat Novak was among the best series ever on the air. I think the early Dragnets were really remarkable, and he didn't really have very much time, evidently, for his own private life because he spent so much of his energy on his work.
And he was terribly loyal to the people who worked for and with him.
Terribly.
I want to
Still
tell you a
is.
story about loyalty.
Yes.
I did, I guess, 75% of the Dragnet TVs. I did practically all of the radio shows. And he had cast me again in something, and whoever was on the board that approves what they do said, "Gosh, you just used her." And he said, "I didn't tell you I'd give you the real person. I told you I would give you the best person I can get for you for this part, and Virginia Gregg is the best person I can get for this part. Don't tell me how to cast." And that's how he stood up for his people. He did.
Yes, I'll never forget Jack for many, many things, but one when I was going through a divorce and was very upset. I don't know who told him, maybe you did, Virginia. I didn't tell him that I was going through it. But he called me to his office one day. This was when he was at Universal, and he was just starting up the new series. And he sat me down and he said, "You have always been my rabbit's foot, and I want you to do the very first episode for me in my new series." And then he took me out to dinner with 21 gentlemen, and I was the only girl at the table. And he did this calculatedly to try to lift my spirits, and I'll never forget him for that, and for many other things.
Yeah, he's a wonderful man.
Gentleman over there.
Jack Webb started that style for Dragnet. That was his idea.
That style, by the way, has been largely misinterpreted. Everybody said that all the actors spoke in a monotone, and that is not true. What Jack said was do not project.
Don't act.
Yes, well,
Well,
in
it was-
effect, yes, but acting it in the sense of
Be real.
projecting a performance. You had a great deal of scope in the way you played the character as long as it didn't become too large.
Yeah,
That was
it
all.
didn't seem like
And he
acting.
drove a merciless pace. His TV scripts had about 50% more material in them than the average TV show of the same length.
You had to play in the same key that he played in, or you looked like an absolute ham, you know?
Actually, he would deny this, but I believe that he was doing the same thing as the actor's studio, only in radio in those days. I don't think it carried over in the television shows, but I do think in those early days in radio, he was going for absolute truth, and it was right after the war, and people wanted absolute truth.
At the risk of possibly decanonizing a saint, I'll tell you, and I will humanize the man. As my wife has told me many times, I have a mouth. And I thought I was just giving him some rather sparkling repartee, and it turns out he misinterpreted it, Mr. Webb, as sass. He got mad at me, and it lasted for 8 years. Now, that's carrying the peeve a little too damn far. But right out of a clear sky, I got a call for a television show, and I went over to the casting office at Warner Brothers to pick up my script and ask, as I picked it up, I asked the casting man, "Who's directing this?" And he said, "Jack Webb." And I slid the script back across the desk to him, and I said, "You're going to get fired." I said, "He's been mad at me for 8 years, and you better cast somebody else." And he said, "Well, he requested you." And I felt as though I'd been knighted for a minute. On my way home, I thought, no, he suddenly remembered something he didn't say to me 8 years ago. And he's going to get me in front of a bunch of people and say it. But what the hell, I'll go along with the gag. So I had quite a bit of wardrobe to take, and it was about the school. What was that series? About the high school. Jane Wyman was in it. Didn't last very long, apparently. And
Memorable.
I thought the set was, there was no red light on when I went on, but I had quite a bit of wardrobe and no one there to help me carry it. And I had script in a bag, and I was bringing 2 hats, and there was no place to put them, so I put them both on my head. There was no red light on the stage. I walked in and down a not yet lit set and walked right into the middle of a rehearsal. There I stopped with 1 foot in the air like a sandhill crane, 2 hats on my head, and my arms full of wardrobe, and Mr. Webb glaring at me like a basilisk. And there the matter rested for a matter of seconds when he regained control and said, "Somebody help him with his wardrobe." Somebody helped me with my wardrobe, and they tottered me over to my dressing room, and Jack said, "I'll be in a minute." Here it comes, and he came in with 2 cups of coffee. He said, as I remember it, "You take cream and sugar." Yes, I tasted it gingerly and then drank it down. And I have to say that whatever our difference of opinion was, he had completely forgotten it or had loftily risen above it. And then I worked for him pretty steadily from then on. But I used to thank God that there had been other producers. Otherwise, that 8 years could have been rather skimpy.
Was that show so big?
Dragnet?
No, he asked about the Jane Wyman show.
No.
She did take off on that movie.
No, she played she played the principal. It was a modern day thing. I was playing a biology teacher, not too well. I can't remember the name of the series, but it was an anthology series of some kind. The Jane Wyman figured largely.
Wasn't it just the Jane Wyman show? Wasn't it?
No, this was Jack's show.
No, Jack Johnstone was another one of those
Webb's Jane
loyal people.
Gentleman back there has a question.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Huh?
One of the people that's seen it all. You've been through radio, and in transition to television, you started appearing in films. You've been peppered everywhere. I don't know if this is a serious question I'm asking, but since you can look back at it and see where we're at now, does anyone have an opinion about that? Are we better off? Was it more enjoyable then? Where do you think we're going?
Well, I don't think we're better off. Yes, it was more enjoyable then. And that's my choice of media, radio.
I think Hans Conried summed it up rather well when this horrible surge from radio to television took place when in front of a bunch of us one day. He said, wouldn't it be wonderful if television were ending and radio was just
Mercedes McCambridge said it.
She did? She probably copied it.
No, it came first from her.
It did? Or then Hans copied it from her?
Mercedes McCambridge.
Two great performers and both entitled to the credit.
I have a Hans Conried quote. We were standing out in front of CBS one day at the time when Brittingham still had a coffee shop in the U, where there are now offices or something, and a real dream of a woman swathed in mink came out. It was what the gal that used to be married to Pev Marley, Linda Darnell. Swept across and into the studio. She was doing a radio appearance, and I said, my goodness, that's a beautiful girl. And Hans looked at her and said, probably can't do a single dialect.
Harry?
Well, I have to tell this Hans story. You know, in his early days as a radio star, he wore one purple sock and one red sock, and nobody in this world looked like Hans Conried. But during the war period, they had guards at the entrance, at the artist entrance of NBC and at the artist entrance of CBS. And every time you went in, you had to show your identification and your pass, which had your picture on it. Well, Hans got awfully tired of having to do this when he was in and out 3 and 4 times a day. So finally, he pinned it to his shirt tail and tucked it inside his pants. And whenever he was asked to show it, he would unzip his trousers and pull out the shirt tail and show it. And shortly after that, they stopped asking him for his pants.
Harry, do you remember what you wrote on a Christmas card to me a couple of years ago? I read the card. Harry said, I saw in toto, I think I have it word perfect. He said, I saw Hans Conried, and his greeting to me was, Harry, can it be that we are both still alive?
Question from Mr. Perrin.
Yes.
A lot of the people in the audience might not realize that you wrote a few Gunsmokes. Tell us your experiences on that.
Well, Harry and I wrote a number of them together, and I think the first one, which is the baseball one, I was into the history of baseball at the time, and I don't know, you just sort of got absorbed into the whole spirit of the show, and you kept sort of daydreaming about the situations that would be a good springboard for a show. And so I struggled my way through 2 or 3 of them. And
John Meston, guiding hand, or were you strictly on your own?
no, we were strictly on our own. And that's all I did, yeah.
Here, this gentleman likes.
I wonder how many people realize that Hans Conried used to take every opportunity to tell people that his career in radio was a poor substitute for a Shakespearean theatrical career. But I wanted to ask in particular about a gentleman that you worked with, Gene Herschel.
Oh, gosh. You talking to me?
Yes.
I mean...
Yes. Was he...
I really can't hear without my glasses.
I remember the program as being a combination of... it was so sweet. You know, he took Medi-Cal and Medicare and Medi-anything, and you had to fill out no forms.
Yeah, you know that man was just like that, too? He
was a
one
lovely
of the
man.
nicest human beings who ever lived.
And then a quick question to Peggy Webber. When you played Jack Webb's mother, you were upstaged by a vacuum cleaner.
Not always. No, I did not play it on the television.
No, on radio.
On radio. No, I did many episodes, and we didn't.
Well, there was a recent episode. It was played on the local station on KCSN, and every time you come on, you are competing with a vacuum cleaner.
Well, if that happened, it maybe happened once, but I don't recall. I remember generally being in bed when Joe Friday would come home, and I'd be nagging him about what he had been eating all day. And I remember once Virginia was brought home by Joe Friday as his girlfriend, and we had a marvelous scene, I'll never forget it, where the mother was so disturbed that Joe Friday had brought a girl back to the house.
You know, they asked me when Civic Pioneer Broadcasters, when Jack was being honored, if I would speak. I'm the world's worst speaker. I told him no for a long time, and then I felt really guilty about it, and I called back and said, okay, if you really need somebody to speak, I'll speak. Well, they called me and said, we don't need you because we have a whole long list of people, which pleased me a lot. I'm shaking like this when I get up there. But I told him later what I was going to say if I was called on. I was going to say, Jack Webb is my dear friend, my director, my producer, my mentor, my father, everything but my lover. Damn it.
Jenny mentioned the transition to television a while ago, and I know the way I got into television. We were sitting in Studio D one day in the non-rehearsal period of Dragnet, and he says, hey, we're going to do this on television. You guys want to work on it? We said, yeah. And that's how we got into television.
Yeah, he called me and said, we're going on television. Can you think of any script you've done you'd like to do? And I said, yeah. And I told him, and we did it, and it was because it was about an illegitimate baby. They never repeated it.
I know that Peggy and I worked together on, I think, what was the 3rd episode.
It was the 3rd episode of the series.
That was shot in the original series.
The TV series.
And the impact of that series is the sharpest of anything I've ever seen. The original impression that it made coming into people's living room, all of a sudden I'd been in radio, I don't know how many years out here, and the name might have been known, but people started to say, hey, and it was shocking the first time that it happened, walking down Hollywood Boulevard. One appearance on Dragnet, and that was the 3rd episode. I think they released it earlier than that, though.
Well, what I think really made it so remarkable, no one had taken close-ups with television shows until that time, and Jack did that entire 3rd show in close-up. It was really very innovative, which is, you know, you look back on it now, you wonder how that could have been such a surprising thing, because films had been using close-ups for years. But he saw that you only had 30 minutes to get a show across.
And you had a small screen, so.
And of course, he also was using that teleprompter machine, which I found very disconcerting and very troubling.
Speaking of close-ups, he called and said, I want you to do this part. It's about a woman who can't have a baby. And I said, Jack, I'm 7 months pregnant. And he said, that's okay, we'll shoot you from the waist up. And I did it.
Go ahead.
Did any of you do any soap operas?
Yes.
Any what?
I did.
I
Yes.
did One Man's Family.
I did a lot of soap operas.
Well, I was thinking of ones that used to be on the afternoon.
Dr. Paul.
Most
and-
of those
and-
came
Aunt
either from
Mary,
Chicago,
Aunt Mary.
Detroit, or
The
New
Gallant
York.
Heart,
Masquerade.
Heritage.
Gordon Hughes did one
A whole
out
bunch.
here. What was it called? I know I worked on that one. And I did guest
The
shots
Guiding
on
Light.
Dr. Paul, George Fogel show.
Yeah.
Aunt Mary.
The Guiding Light was from out here occasionally. Yes, but I didn't have a running part on that. I had running parts on all of the Crosby and Fogel shows, which were Dr. Paul, Aunt Mary, Heritage, Press Club. There were.
Did you do any more soap operas, or did you just do strictly the adventure stuff?
I did One Man's Family, did Ellen and Linda on that. I did Woman in My House. I was on that as a regular.
Skeleton?
What's that?
Family Skeleton?
Is that the
Yeah, I
Mercedes
did I Love
McCambridge
Adventure, I
show?
Love a
Family
Mystery.
Skeleton?
Family
Well,
Skeleton.
that was a soap opera as well.
Yeah,
Morse did, yeah.
yeah.
I don't remember that.
It ended
a
up as
Sunday.
one when it was on 5 days
Yeah,
a week. Yeah.
5 days a week.
A Woman in My House was the same show, but they, instead of it being featured on the father, they tried to feature the mother, but they used the same scripts. And my part was the part of Claudia, only they renamed her Candy, I think.
I was on it for 7 years as Ross Farnsworth, mother's boy, and who married into the family. And I was always a newcomer on the show. I was never J. Anthony Smythe and these people. Just they sort of sat at the other end of the table because I wasn't one of the originals.
Woman in My House became a daytime series, but I did work on One Man's Family in a regular running part. The part of Claudia that was on One Man's Family became Candy in the daytime series, which was the first thing to convert to daytime before One Man's Family.
The names were changed. Claudia was one of the daughters.
Yeah, Claudia was one of the daughters on.
A question for Mr. Dehner. When Gunsmoke went to TV, why did they leave all the radio actors behind?
Young man. We didn't know that it was going to go on television until we read it in the trades, right? It's there, and it was a sore spot with all of us. The parts that we had all created, we were not right for, and to hell with them.
But we all worked on the series, though.
No,
playing, didn't
we
you?
didn't.
Well,
Bill wound up directing some,
Yeah.
but Howard and I were stickouts. We neither one of us would do it. Our pride was shattered beyond ruin, and oh yes. Of course, one reason I was never asked, as I recall, to do it. Yeah, my pride might have melted, but I think the whole bunch went over there. Norman eventually was the producer, and Frank Paris, who was the assistant producer on the radio, Gunsmoke, was over there. And well, they used a lot of his old scripts. John, and then Ann Gaffney, who was the script secretary on radio, went over to work for everybody. I think they used Rex Corey's music for a while.
Was that the character you created, Chester? Was that mostly your input, or was it the writers?
It was the first one I ever did. He was listed as townsman, and about halfway through rehearsal, Bill Conrad said, that guy's got to have a name. He said, I can't just say, hey, Townsman, come here a minute, I want to ask you a question. So he named him Chester.
Give us some Chester, would you please?
You're listening to him. And Bill also named Doc. He was just down as Doc, and Howard played him rather bloodthirstily, and so he became Dr. Charles Adams, the cartoonist. And Chester got his on the radio his last name because Bill used to cut up pretty good on those shows, and if you had a broken speech, you just kept going till you ran down because nobody would break in on you. And I had a broken speech that Bill just let me go, and I said, as sure as, and he didn't say anything, as sure as my name is Chester Wesley Proudfoot. And he Chester Wesley Proudfoot? I said, yeah. And that's how he got named. But we had a gag Bill and I did for years. I think any one of us here with Bill, if they'd given us an outline, I think we could have ad-libbed a Gunsmoke show, all of us here, because it was a labor of love with all of us. All of us became interested in Western history about that era. And like John Meston used to say, I have to research these scripts or somebody catches me up on it. But I don't know how it started, but we had a thing, Bill and I going, if I had to open a door, he'd say, get me something. I'd say, did you see the new circulars? I'd open the door, or open a drawer, or open a closet door, and I'd say, well, there's my, who put that there? I've been looking all over for that. And after several years of that, Bill said, what in the hell have you been looking for for nearly 10 years? And I said, Mr. Dillon, this is it, and you can have it.
Parley, you mentioned your interest in Western history. Now, am I right or wrong? When Gunsmoke first came on, it won an award from a state historical society.
Yeah,
and
Kansas.
This fact was announced with considerable pomp at the end of every show. Is that right?
Yep.
Can you fill us in on that?
The pomp? We got it was from the Chamber of Commerce and the State Historical Society of Kansas, wasn't it? That we got this. And the amazing thing of it is Matt Dillon, the name Matt Dillon, was a brainchild of John and Norman, I guess, one or the other. And they said in this letter, it has been established that Matt Dillon lived in Dodge City, but we don't know the precise time. Well, I guess Matt Dillon was the embodiment of all of the great men of that day, the Wyatt Earps, the others who were there, the Wild Bill Hickok, and all of them. He was sort of wrapped up with that. But we had several awards from the historical societies around there, and there was one town other than Gunsmoke that the Santa Fe train, Santa Fe Railroad system did something on there. They, I think either John or Bill got an award from the Santa Fe Railroad, didn't they? There was something with the railroad there. But it was interesting, and I think the fact that it became such a labor of love with all of us, from Norman and John right on down to us, the sound men. Those guys used to work double the number of hours to produce sounds on that show. Everybody loved it. Everybody worked hard, and I'm immodest enough to say that I think that it showed on the series, and I think we were all delighted that when we made the last one, we didn't know it was the last one. We had recorded ahead. I think it would have been a horrible, horrible experience to go in there knowing it was for the last time. I wouldn't have gone.
Directed to all of you, would you describe a typical Saturday morning?
At Gunsmoke?
Yeah.
Not in mixed company, I would.
Any resemblance between the dialogue in the rehearsal and the dialogue on the show was purely coincidental.
Howard McNear used to refer to it as Dirty Saturday. And we'd get off on a start, the most innocuous line being given a provocative reading would result in the script being absolutely blue from page 1 on through. There's a man on KNUS in
John Dunning.
Denver, John Dunning, who has interviewed quite a few of us and in the process of doing it, but he has an outtake of a dress rehearsal on the new hotel.
Right.
That well, I don't think we do, but let me tell you, then need you ask about what a Saturday was like over there.
Were all the tapes taped, or all the shows taped from the very beginning, or were any of them live?
Oh, no, the first, they were all taped, I'm sure, but the first, 3 years?
Were on disc, weren't they?
No, we did it live, and then they went on Sunday night, then the Saturday morning was it taped or disc repeat. But maybe it was longer than 3 years that we did them live.
I remember I worked on the audition recording, which became the first show, and I was doubling a character of a heavy and Mr. Hightower. Mr. Hightower was the telegrapher and I think the publisher of the paper or something. I figured, I've got a whole career ahead of me. Mr. Hightower's got to be in every episode. He came back exactly 1 year later. Once. But I think he was in the last. I think he was in the last show as well. The one that sold, whichever it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very first show.
How about the name Larry Dobkin?
She's still around.
I saw her just about a month ago. I was at her house for dinner. She is married to a meteorologist who's a splendid gentleman.
Uh-oh.
And has
Wait till you hear
the
this
unlikely name of Carl Putfarkin.
True.
And I know them both well, love them both dearly. I said I flatly refuse to write that on a Christmas card.
She called
She
me
lives
up
in
and
Woodland
told me she
Hills
was
and is
engaged.
very.
With a name like that, he has to be nice.
Yeah.
Then she broke down laughing and said, wait till you hear his name. She did this before she married him. And she still married him. She had to love him. Nope.
Why, Carl's not a bad name.
Is Larry Dobkin still directing? Is he still a director?
Uh-huh.
Yes, as far as I've seen him for about 6 months or so, but I worked for him not too long ago. He's very active and is doing a lot of writing too.
Are you going to be a regular on the Grant show as a senator? I noticed you were on a few times last season.
No, but if I were going to be a regular, this would be the time I was hired because it was canceled. But no, I was fortunate enough to be on it 4 or 5 times, but not on any regular basis.
I was wondering, do you recall the occasion that to play a dual part of the episode?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Do any of you recall having to play a dual part to the absence of another?
Oh, sure.
Tell them about that, John.
Yes. Most everybody has. Hmm?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Talking to yourself.
Sometimes talking to yourself. Yeah.
You
Afterward.
don't have time. By the time you have to find out
Get
that you
double
have to do
checks
it.
if you play 3 parts.
Uncle, Chester's uncle.
Was that because someone didn't show up? Or?
No,
It was
it was erroneously written that way.
Peggy, on my big thriller, The Clyde Beatty Show, once played twin midget acrobats. You remember that?
No, I don't remember. How can
And-
you forget that? I can't remember that.
One was a mean one, and one was a nice one, and the mean one was going to drop the nice one when they switched on the trapeze. And Peggy was running back and forth because she'd have to be off mic and then on mic. Very talented girl.
Clyde, Vic, I asked you a long time ago about Clyde Beatty, and you said you didn't remember who played your wife. And so I wondered if anybody else happened to remember who played.
Was that Jean
Mrs.
Bates?
Beatty.
No.
It wasn't
no.
Jean Bates.
She married Gordon. No, his last name was Gordon.
Oh,
Blonde guy.
Oh, Evie McVeigh.
Eve McVeigh.
Eve McVeigh played Harriet. Yeah, and what I love about that show is that every act had to end. First of all, they wanted you to think that I was Clyde Beatty. There was never any credit on the show, but he couldn't read, so they hired me. And every act had to end on a high note. And my favorite tagline for a scene was my wife Harriet screaming, "Clyde, you'll be Claude!"
That was a Commodore show.
Commodore Productions. Shirley Thomas and Walter White.
Walter White.
My favorite radio show of all time, one that CBS called Escape, and I would be interested in.
Yes,
Here.
yes, we all worked.
That was Norm Macdonald's show, by the way.
Don't know anything specific to say about it.
All I know is that some of the finest roles and some of the most classic stories came up on that show. Bill Robeson did it for a while. Working with Bill Robeson was always interesting because there was a lunch break, and the first two acts would be rehearsed in tremendous detail with extreme synchronization of sound effects and balance and everything. And after lunch, we never got around to the third act of the dress rehearsal. And so the last part of the show was always sort of winged.
Probably the best part.
So to speak.
Yes.
I want to.
The Dehner question. You did some work for Elliott Lewis the last couple of years on dramatic radio.
Yeah,
What was it like?
it was absolutely wonderful.
I mean, compared to where it was before, what would be your mind at the time? Going back 20 years, more or less.
Yes, I know what you're asking. It was like 20 years had folded back on itself. And here were the same actors with whom I had worked, and we'd all worked together right here at this table. 20 years ago, sitting around a table, picking up a script, marking it, and reading it and taping it, as though nothing had happened, as though 20 years hadn't even occurred. And I suppose there was something else to it, and that is more of a joy this time around, because there was that novelty to it. Suddenly we were doing radio again, and suddenly we had 20 years, although that didn't really enter our minds. We had 20 more years experience. We were 20 years better. We enjoyed, because of this, a greater ease, and it all flowed, and it was a lovely, lovely experience. I don't know whether you fellows felt that way, but
Oh, yes.
I sure
We
did.
did it with relish.
Oh, absolutely.
And the scripts, they were good scripts too.
And they were good scripts.
And we approached it, or the entire production was approached with a great seriousness and yet great joy. It was delightful, wonderful.
Oh, sing the song. You know the song your father taught you that you bowled me over with?
Which one is it?
It's a jingle kind of
You
song.
mean the first song I ever learned?
Reuben Rastus.
Oh.
Go ahead, sing it. No, you won't sing it.
I won't sing it.
Yeah. But my
Rufus Rastus Johnson Brown, what you gonna do when the rent comes around? What you gonna say? How you gonna pay when you never have a lick of sense till Judgment Day? You know, I know, rent means dough. The landlord's gonna keep us out in the snow. Rufus Rastus Johnson Brown, what you gonna do when the rent comes around?
His father taught him that song, and my father taught me that song, and it didn't come out until this last radio thing with Elliot Lewis. That was well done.
Oh, no, you're not.
Let me ask one more question.
One more question.
I got one more. No, you just fine. John, I wanted to ask you about kind of a plug of the thing that you did for TV earlier this year, The Winds of War.
Winds of
Big
War,
long
yes.
Documentary. I wondered when that's going to be shown and what part you played in it.
It will be shown, at first it was going to be shown in October, then it's now postponed to February of next year. The Winds of War, Herman Wouk's first book. I played the part of Admiral Ernest J. King, the Commander-in-Chief of the United States Navy. And it was a very exciting thing to do. We did it up in Bremerton on the old battleship Missouri, upon which was signed the Japanese surrender in 1945. They're all saying no, but I don't know. I don't know if they're going to do it. This one is the biggest thing ever done for television. 16 episodes, 16 two-hour episodes, and I have a feeling that if it goes, they'll do the sequel. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sorry, we're going to have to call this to a halt, I think. This has been such an afternoon. I think this is the best meeting we've ever had. Now this is going to be a little difficult. It's kind of like handing out diplomas, I guess. Graduation time. So I will come to you, gentlemen and ladies, in no particular order, just the way they're sitting. Parley Baer, would you accept an honorary membership in SPERDVAC?
Indeed I will, and thank you very much.
There's yours, John Dehner.
And I thank you all. You're just wonderful people. Thanks very much.
Vic Perrin.
Thank you, and I want to say that I think we had more fun than you did. I really do.
The feeling is mutual. Peggy, and your name is spelled correctly, too.
Thank you. I'd like to say that I really am so grateful that there is such an organization as yours, and it really warms all of our hearts, and let's hope it comes back someday.
Amen. Harry Bartell.
Thank you very, very much. It was really fun to be here.
And one of my favorite radio actors or actresses, Virginia Gregg.
Thank you. I thoroughly enjoyed this. I thought I'd be scared to death, but you're so easy to talk to. Thank you.
Thank you all.
You know, it's so wonderful to see all of you, and as I said earlier, some of us see each other frequently, not as frequently as we would like, but it's such a wondrous thing to meet here at a joyous occasion when it's not a funeral anymore.
Would you please stay seated and sign some autographs for a few minutes? I'm sure appreciate that.
Certainly.
Thank you. The meeting will adjourn in just a moment. Our next meeting is September the 11th, the second Saturday of September. And don't forget KCSN tomorrow at 12. Don't touch that dial with Olin Soule as our special guest. And that's the meeting. Thank you all for coming.
You know, if you think, ladies and gentlemen, that you've had an issue with daylight savings time and changing the clock, I refer you back to this episode time and time and again now, so that you two don't have to feel too bad about yourself. This was a wonderful thing to listen to. And on that last bit, I am very happy that Peggy was hoping that the era of audio entertainment comes back, and that she was grateful for things like SPERDVAC. I think it's safe to say that Peggy's wish came true, because the world of podcasting and audio drama has spiked back up again in an immense way, thanks to the accessibility that we have on our phones, to be able to enjoy dramatic material for the ear and not necessarily for the eye. In a weird way, the phrase that Mercedes McCambridge said that they were repeating is kind of come true. Like, television can be sort of on the decline in its own way, while radio's coming back up. I mean, both mediums are their own form of zenith, but nobody would have probably predicted that radio or audible entertainment would make a comeback. So there you go. Thank you all for listening to this with me. I hope you enjoyed learning from these luminaries of the microphone as much as I did. And if you enjoyed the time we've had together by the Podio machine, then let us know by dropping us a line at behindthedialpod@gmail.com. That's behindthedialpod@gmail.com. Or rate and review the show on your favorite podcatcher, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. Give us a rating and a review. We'd really appreciate it. And as always, if you wish to support the mission of SPERDVAC, please head over to SPERDVAC.com. That's SPERDVAC.com to learn how you can become part of this lovely audio family. That's all for tonight, folks, and until I see you in 2 weeks, good night.